All systems go. Clear for liftoff.
What's going on, everybody? We have made it through the FCS garbage, most of the blowouts. There's still going to be some blowouts this year, but we have some really competitive games, some really high-scoring games this week, and it's just an exciting time. We're in the full swing of college football. What's going on? My name's Bill. Put a dollar in front of it. You'll find me on Twitter and Discord. Welcome to the SHIPIT Nation College Football DFS show for Week 4, and man, have we got a deal for you at SHIPIT. We still have this $349 through the end of the season. And that's for the big one. That's for the big package for just the football only. Again, it's not just NFL. It includes college football. You get Saber Sim. I suggest the All Access because there's still a lot of other sports going on, and we have the best team in the industry for each one. The Ryder Cup is next week. We still have some MMA going on. But you might see up there above my screen share and down there below my screen share, we have the $3 for 3 days promo code. What is that, you might ask? It's exactly what it says it is. So if you go to shipitnation.com and click to sign up for one of our packages, it's going to bring you here to the content only single sport. But this all access, any all access package, if you want the starter, so you get the Saber Sim Optimizer, monthly it's $139 a month or $149 without the additional promo, but the monthly for the ultimate $321. Okay. You can read. I know you can read. You can see all this when you go on the site. So it's just really a matter of which one you want to test out. Me personally, when I get a free trial or a very discounted trial, I'm going to go for the biggest and best. So I know what I want to use. The ultimate gets you up to 5,000 lineups. It gets you the contest sims for Saber Sim. So you go to click on the monthly $321. It's going to show up. There might be a different promo card already pushed in. So $297, then $321 for a month after that. Just go down to the promo code here, click on it, type in 343, enter, in case you don't know how promo codes work. And then you go back up 3 days for $3. And obviously it will go up to whatever package you choose. It'll go up to that monthly fee after that. But for $3, you can't get anything for $3 anymore. You can't get a cup of coffee for $3. Man, it's insane. But anyway, it gets you access to everything. You're going to see the stone. You're going to see projections. You're going to fully test out Saber Sim. And it's going to be for multiple sports. I know it seems like a quiet season with just football, but like I said, there's other sports going on right now that you can check out everything. And if you didn't think it was time to get in on SHIPIT Nation, now's the time. Just a bunch of more big winners. Over the past week, we had Sansa chopping almost $60,000 last week on Thursday Night Football. But just a bunch of winners. Hey, my name's even on here. Cool. But it's everybody. It's not just the admins. It's our members at every level. It's not just the big money players, whether you play in the dime contest or you're playing in that 555. We like to celebrate wins. We have a channel called SHIPIT in our Discord. Just post your wins there and everybody celebrates with you. It's a grand old time. Again, just the best community I've ever been a part of. And like I mentioned, we do have that partnership with Saber Sim. So you will have access to that again with that $3 for 3 days promo. And the SHIPIT games still going on. Oh, look at that. We still haven't updated, but we do have 10 SHIPIT tickets given out. But if you sign up for the football or all access monthly and you stick with it, you'll be eligible for the SHIPIT games. $50,000 in cash, $25,000 more in prizes. And we're doing the 555 millionaire again this week for SHIPIT game number 2. So this could go up significantly if it ships. The person with the SHIPIT ticket gets, or the person that does the share ship gets $100,000, $500 goes into the prize pool. Just an insane program we got going on. SHIPIT games, super awesome. And like I said, we're still in the very beginning of the season, so there's still plenty of time to get in on it. But that's my spiel for why SHIPIT is the right site and now is the right time. Let's dig into this weekend's college football slate. We only have an 11 gamer. They didn't put 12 games on. I think it's because the Civil War, Oregon State is at a weird time. still put it in there. I don't understand it. But anyway, we'll go through these 11 games. And like I said, we have some big ones. Arkansas at Memphis kicking us off. And we got points. Man, do we have points. 35 implied team total for Arkansas. And we have one of the better quarterbacks, especially for DFS, and Taylor Green. He should probably be in the mid 9Ks for this matchup. The floor and ceiling are obviously both there at this price, especially with a 35-point team total. Mike Washington and Braylon Russell, they've kind of been splitting the backfield, but Washington's just been far more effective. They each have multiple touchdowns. They're both involved in the pass game. I do like the discount on Russell, but like I said, for raw points, and you probably can afford it this week. We'll get into the wide receivers in a minute. Raw points, you can play Mike Washington if you want to, just to get part of this prolific scoring offense. The wide receiver room, touchdowns for everybody. 4 wideouts have multiple touchdowns already. Omega Blake is the leading target, leading in terms of targets, receptions, yards, and touchdowns. He's the clear top option here. The Brown brothers, Jalen and CJ, they both get their fair share. Raylan Sharp is on the field enough, and he's getting multiple targets a game again, multiple scores. But after Blake, all of these guys are super cheap. So if you're stacking this game, it's easy to do a Taylor Green with 2 receiver stack. I don't know if I'm going to do that, but it's easy enough to do with this pricing. And 35 points is a lot. On the Memphis side, 27 points, 27.5 points isn't that shabby either. One nugget on Memphis is their coach did call out Georgia for their legal troubles this year. I think I've heard this one before. That has nothing to do with this game, but it does put a target on Memphis, at least in the media. So we'll see. But Brandon Lewis, dual threat. We just saw what Trinidad Chambliss did to the Razorbacks. Arkansas State's Jalen Rayner even had a great game against Arkansas. So with this dual threat ability with Brandon Lewis, 7,700 is probably too cheap in this matchup, especially because they're at home. On one hand, Arkansas could be ready, but I'll take the quarterback at home averaging 7 yards a carry. Sutton Smith is kind of taking over this backfield with no Greg DeRosier, and he is considered day-to-day, so maybe we'll see him, maybe we won't. Smith is averaging 6 yards a carry with 4 touchdowns. They've played mostly inferior opponents, but he also has pass-catching upside, so at 6,600, that's not a bad price. I love him for GPPs especially. We'll get to some big workhorses when we're talking about cash plays, but especially if you're game stacking this game, Smith is a great option. And then Cortez Bram and Jamari Hawkins, just simply too cheap. They should not be in the 3Ks. Their target share in terms of this team is really high. But what I will say is in terms of the slate as a whole, they might be on the lower tier as far as these 3K receivers go. But I do want to talk about the wide receivers while we're talking about guys like Hawkins and Bram. There are a lot of underpriced wide receivers in the 3 and 4K range this week. So if you're looking at this slate, and it doesn't matter who your resource is, whether you use us or, a different site that provides content. If you see ownership starting to funnel to 2 or 3 guys, rightfully so, they're probably getting ownership for a reason, but with so many guys in this wide receiver position priced in that 3 to 4K range, it just means there are going to be a ton of pivots. You don't have to get too cute and too crazy with your lineups to get different. If you own like 1, 2, or 3 wide receiver positions, you could play a chalk wide receiver and then 2 of these cheap pivots, and that could be enough to set you apart in GPPs. So, like I said, pay attention to ownership. This is where ownership comes in big for GPPs in college football. With any sport really, but when you got a lot of these guys playing the same positions in high scoring games in similar spots, but the ownership isn't going to everybody. If the ownership doesn't spread out, you got so many pivots. Hawkins and Bram could easily be those guys, and it would not surprise me this week. And then Busk is the other starter. He's just not getting the target share. Brady Clues actually has logged the most snaps out of anybody, but he just has 5 targets. But a very stackable game, however you want to do it. Good options in the quarterback, running back, and wide receiver room for both teams. Points. We have more points with SMU at TCU. 35, almost 36 implied team total for TCU, and then almost 29 for SMU. Kevin Jennings, a little underwhelming. Like SMU kind of sucked last week, if I'm being completely honest. That Missouri State SMU game was cutting in during the rain delays, and Missouri State was leading for a good portion of that game. SMU just could not seem to figure out how to get it going. But Kevin Jennings is a name, he's averaging more than 280 yards through the air. Adds some on the ground too. TCU has only played 2 games, and they kind of stuffed North Carolina. But Abilene Christian was able to move the ball on them through the air and on the ground. So I don't mind these SMU guys here. Kevin Jennings, fairly priced at 7,900. TJ Harden has kind of taken over this backfield. 5,500 is probably too cheap for him. Again, you're going to have to weigh it as in terms of this slate, but he's not a bad option in this mid-tier if he's going to continue the workload. Chris Johnson Jr., not CJ2K's kid. I know. I got duped by AI last week. First off, I'll tell you, family lineage is not really at the top of my priority list when it comes to projecting these games. It's just some fun nuggets to talk about when somebody is related. Just like Thursday night this week for Rice, JJ Arcega-Whiteside's brother plays for Rice. See, it's irrelevant. That's why AI duped me there. Won't happen again. I shouldn't promise it won't happen again because it's AI. So poor stinking Allen Iverson duping everybody all the time. Anywho, TJ Harden's a good option. McFarland Johnson thought they were going to work in, just haven't as much. And then this wide receiver room, Romello Brinson and Jalen Cooper are 1 and 2. Cooper's a true freshman. It's just been absolutely stupendous. Both of them have 18 targets on the year, multiple scores. Cooper has hit double digits on DK every single game, and he's only 3,700 on a team that is projected to be in a shootout. Most of Ymir Knight's production was in the FCS game, so I don't know what to think of him. RJ Maryland, he's increased his routes every game so far, so maybe we're getting closer to back to normal with him. And again, he's not playing tight end this year. He's playing slot receiver, basically. So, but if we get the same old SMU, we know it could be any one of these guys. And Jordan Hudson is back at practice, not Belly's girlfriend, not Hoodie's girlfriend. Jordan Hudson, the football player, is back at practice, so he could see the field as well. He's borderline wide receiver 1 to start the season, but he got hurt. On the TCU side, Josh Hoover for only $300 more than Kevin Jennings. Sign me up. Averaging 310 yards a game, 3 touchdowns. They've only played 2 games again, but Baylor's by far the best team TCU's played. Again, they've only played 2, but Sawyer Robertson threw for 440 and 4 on TCU, or on SMU. So I screwed that up. Baylor's the best team SMU has played, and Robertson threw for 440 and 4. Too many 3-letter acronyms ending in U in this game. But anyway, Josh Hoover's in a great spot. All that said, very possible he could go for 404 in this game as well. This backfield's going to be a little bit interesting. Kavorian Barnes dealing with an injury. I would give him the slight lean normally in this backfield, but we could see Payne, Palmer, and Battle if Barnes can't go, or even if Barnes is banged up. They might just play it by ear and keep him in an emergency. But we don't have, it's not a conference game, so we're not going to figure that out. But we might get some Twitter news and discuss it in our Discord leading up to lock. Maybe get some more clarity Saturday morning. Wide receiver room's been led by Jordan Dwyer. He's got 8 more targets than the next closest guy in this room. Eric McAllister has the history. Joseph Manjack is involved. He should be the other starter again. Ed Small is an interesting one. I was super high on him going into the UNC game, but he didn't bust out until last week. He had 2 touchdowns. And then, Jordan Bailey's still missing practice this week, so that could just open up more for a guy like Ed Small. Again, another very stackable game, a tad more expensive than the game before it overall, but still very doable on this slate. Stack either of these games. Speaking of game stacks, more points. Texas Tech, Utah. Texas Tech's offense has been pristine all year, but they're playing a real defense now. It's going to be on you to figure out, do you believe in Texas Tech's offense? Do you believe in Utah's defense? Neither of them have played any teams that are really good. I mean, UCLA, they've already fired their coach, and maybe that's the best team of the bunch that these teams have played, between the two. But Baron Morton, underpriced at 7,600. He's going to chuck that pigskin around, probably priced down for what we think Utah's defense is going to be, but we don't know that for sure. So this might be a buy low spot on Morton. Jacoby Williams isn't getting the carries that Cameron Dickey is, but he only has 1 fewer touch because he's so involved in the passing game. Both of them are priced down again this week. I do like Williams for the discount, but he'll probably garner a little bit more ownership than Dickey if you're looking for leverage. I don't know if this would be the spot to get leverage. It's probably not going to be too big of a discrepancy. But I do like Williams for his dual threat. And then this wide receiver room, your guess is as good as mine with the teams they played so far. We still think that Caleb Douglas is the top receiver just based on the history. He just hasn't shown it quite yet this year. Virgil's been the big play guy. Eakin's been involved. Terrence Carter Jr. is on the injury report, but he's listed as probable. So it could be any one of these guys. They're probably fairly priced for what we think they're going to do. But again, solid options if you're stacking this game. Utah on the other side, a lot of New Mexico here on Utah. They have the old offensive coordinator from New Mexico. They have the quarterback. They have the wide receiver. They have the running back. Again, another decision you have to make. Texas Tech actually grades out as the best defense on Pro Football Focus. So we're not going to know until they play this game. Maybe it's all smoke and mirrors, but it could be smoke and mirrors on either side. Devin Dampier, though, has been great his entire career. Super intriguing in this offense, leading the team in rushing. But he's also averaging more than 200 a game through the air. Again, price is a little lack of competition. Price is a little tougher on Dampier, but honestly, he should probably be a 9K quarterback. He hasn't thrown a pick yet this year either, so maybe I just jinxed him. I don't believe in jinxes that much. The mush, that's what we call it, the mush. Nakari Rogers is the running back that came in from New Mexico. He's leading the backfield, and he's got 4 touchdowns already this season. He's cheaper than Wayshawn Parker. Wayshawn Parker was like an RB1 at Wazoo, but he should mix in as well. But Nakari is leading this backfield. 6,300 is not a bad price for him. And then in the wide receiver room, what's crazy is that Utah has some ghosts. And what I mean by ghosts is that there are players on this offense that legitimately get targeted every single game. But they play defense. They play 2 ways, so they're not on DraftKings. Utah has a cornerback that has 10 catches this year. So that's probably the biggest risk to these offensive guys, are just guys that aren't even on the slate. Obviously, we all have a level playing field when it comes to that, but it could eat into some of the production. Hunter Andrews is an interesting one because you'll see him in the wide receiver category. But he has 12 carries on the season already. He's caught all 8 of his targets. So he definitely has extreme upside at 3,200. Ryan Davis is wide receiver 1, though. He's the one that's in from New Mexico as well. But after those 2, it kind of falls off a bit. Dallin Bentley's on the field a ton, and he has touchdown upside. And then Tobias Merriweather, I don't know if he's ever figured it out. He's from Cal by way of Notre Dame. Again, but the defensive players mixing in kind of after Hunter dampen these guys. But again, another stackable game. Most expensive quarterback so far, but well worth it for the upside. All right, on to a game that's maybe stackable. Is Clemson good? Do we know, or are they bad? Or are we going to find anything out in this game in a home game against Syracuse? I don't know. On paper, a blowout. If Syracuse's offense can click, we know they can probably score points. Haven't quite seen it from Angeli a ton this year, other than against Colgate. But how do you weigh that? He still has some upside at 7,200. I just think there's so many better options in his range in the 6Ks, even and 7Ks. But defense hasn't really been Clemson's problem. Their offense has sputtered. As far as this running back room, Fran Brown's been cryptic with Deacon Willis. He's listed as questionable. But really, Clemson's only allowed decent rushing numbers because of volume, not efficiency. So I don't know how much I'm looking into this. Will Nixon was a darling last week, but if Willis is back, it hurts. If you're playing him at 3,500, it's for the pass catching upside. And if you think Syracuse can keep it somewhat close and still be competitive. And then in this, spin the wheel for these pass catchers. We have Gill, we have Villari, we have Justice Ross Simmons, we have Jonte Cook. Any one of them, if they get touchdowns, could be the guy. Villari's more consistent, and he's had a big game or 2, but really any one of these guys could pop. If you're stacking Syracuse, you could, again, spin the wheel or just land on whichever one you have the money for. Gill has big play upside. Cook had a decent game to start the season, but he's faded. 7 guys are in the 11 to 19 target range on this team, so I don't know how there's a better way to figure it out than to, like I said, spin the wheel. Maybe look at some matchups by position. But again, Clemson's defense has not been the problem. So I don't know how much actual data you're going to get from that that's going to be helpful. Playable, but I don't know that I'd get there in cash just because of the volatility. And holy Klubnik price. 9,700, the most expensive player on the slate, but Syracuse is giving it up in every way on defense. And like I said, there's soft enough pricing in other spots that you can afford Klubnik if you want him. He's been bad, but this is a prime spot. It's one of those things where if he can't do it here, is he ever going to do it? So if you're going to play him, this is probably the week to do it. Adam Randall's in a great spot as well. He's getting the volume. 7,100 is a fair price. Biggest thing with the pass catchers is the status of Antonio Williams. You'll see we have him here on our stone this week, and that's because he's been upgraded to probable. How is he going to be involved in his first game back is yet to be determined, but we know he is the alpha of this offense, or was the alpha. Kind of seems like Bryant Wesco's taken over that a little bit in his sophomore season. He hasn't had a sophomore slump, but there's been some bright spots on this Clemson team. Wesco is one of them. He just had a ceiling game, getting a ton of targets. TJ Moore getting targets as well, but he's only got a 44% catch rate, so that's concerning. And then Tyler Brown and Cole Turner are kind of hurt with Williams coming back, so I don't know that I'd go down there, especially with legitimate wide receiver ones in the 3 and 4K range. So again, stack the Clemson side. You can run it back if you want to. If you think Syracuse keeps it close, it's viable. But definitely looking at Randall and Wesco and possibly Williams if people aren't going to go to him. Maryland at Wisconsin, honestly, a stinker in terms of this slate. It's not really a blowout. It's not high scoring. It's just kind of a big nothing. Malik Washington's looked good against subpar competition. This is a tough road matchup for a freshman, for anybody, but especially for a freshman. It's tough to play either of these running backs too, but with DeJuan Williams being 3,400 and, the volume he's gotten, dart throw, and I don't know if I'm going to this game at all, honestly, just with the way the slate plays out. You can play Jalir Farouk at this price. Farouk and Knotts are both good options in the 3 and 4K range. Not the top options, but again, easy pivots. But these top 4 guys are definitely all involved. On the Wisconsin, and Wisconsin's defense doesn't look great on paper, but Bama just basically did whatever they wanted to. So I don't know how much stock you put into that. Billy Edwards' revenge game for Wisconsin, if he can play. News so far is that he's been getting some reps at practice, but it's still yet to be determined if he's going to go or not. Again, they're just cheap. We don't need to talk too much about him. Edwards, if you want to play the revenge narrative, is fine. It's going to be a 3-man rotation in the backfield. It doesn't matter how good Dylan Jones is. It doesn't matter how good Darian Dupree is. Maybe they'll ride the hot hand, but all 3 of these guys are going to be involved in the offense in this order: Jones, Dupree, Yakimelli. But because of how much they eat into each other, it's tough to play them. Again, just a dart throw, hoping for a touchdown or a couple of big runs. In this wide receiver room, Vinny Anthony is number 1. Lance Mason's been a lot more involved. He was kind of invisible in week 1, but at mid price, he's fine. Tredge Kekahuna seems like a ticking time bomb ready to explode. He's got that big playability. Hasn't quite come out yet, at least on the DK slates, but I wouldn't be surprised to see Anthony, Kekahuna, or Ballard have a 75-yard touchdown catch. And Lance Mason's just a tight end safety blanket, but we're probably not. We honestly probably talk too much about that game. This is why my videos run so long. I talk about pointless stuff too much. Tulane at Ole Miss, double-digit spread, but this game's got some goodies too. Actually, hang on. Jake Retzlaff just scored another rushing touchdown. Wow. Unreal last week. Every time I open my app, Jake Retzlaff, rushing touchdown. Jake Retzlaff, rushing touchdown. 7,100, far too cheap. We just saw what Taylor Green did to this offense. Ole Miss's defense is not great. I know Tulane is a big underdog, but Jake Retzlaff seems like he's that guy. He's got 6 rushing touchdowns this year. He's even got a couple of throwing touchdowns. So, 7,100, too cheap, lock and load. I love him in all formats. Maurice Turner, in from Louisville. He hasn't played since week 1. But he was dressed last week, so it might be a sign that he's back. But after that, after Retzlaff, this running back room's a mishmash. Maybe Turner will get the workload because it did look like he was trending that way, until he was sidelined. But I don't know how much you're looking at the running backs, especially with Retzlaff. And then in the wide receiver room, Amari Hayes has been the top guy. Bryce Brohanen's not far behind him. Again, just a trend on the slate. 2 more cheap options. Maybe not the best wide receivers on the slate, but when there's so many guys in this range that are wide receiver 1 and 2, you can keep them on your radar for sure. On the Ole Miss side, don't get me started on the night slate last week with Trinidad Chambliss and Austin Simmons. I don't want to talk about it. Simmons came in and threw a touchdown, 1 for 1 for 4 yards and a touchdown, and he even had a rush attempt. Lane Kiffin is maybe the most frustrating coach in the history. No, it's still Loxley at Maryland with his stupid starting quarterback stuff at the beginning of the season. Anywho, Austin Simmons setting up to start again, but then a report came out Thursday that from On3 that we should expect Chambliss to start. We're probably not going to find out until the first offensive snap or very, very soon, like late, right before. Since this is a late game, I would suggest if you're going to play the Ole Miss quarterback X, put Chambliss in there because he's 200 more. That way, if we find out Simmons is starting, no matter how much salary you use, you can definitely afford Simmons because he's $200 cheaper. That's how I would approach that. But maybe it doesn't matter because maybe everything is going to go to Kawan Lacey. Now, Darian Mensah did just throw for 300 yards on Tulane, but he was playing from behind for most of the game. So take that for what you will. But Kawan Lacey seems like he's a constant in this offense no matter what. 20 carries a game, a couple of receptions. And again, Tulane just gave up 6 yards a carry to Duke, and Duke cannot run the ball. And they did. So that's really all I need to tell you about Lacey. Solid option in all formats. Speaking of solid option in all formats, Harrison Wallace's price is asinine. He's a top target guy, no matter who's playing quarterback. At 4,100, he should be at least a 6,500 to 7K wide receiver with the production he's putting up. Caden Lee, Deuce Alexander, Dejon Stribling, all fine options. They're all getting a pretty equal target share. Caden Lee, we know, has the history. But look at the price on Deuce Alexander. If he's getting equal target share, why not play the min-price guy? And then Daquan Wright, he's been on the field. He's just been pretty non-existent since week one. A very stackable game, even with the big spread. You can play quarterback, running back, wide receiver, or multiple wide receivers with the quarterback and run it back with Retzlaff or even one of these cheap wide receivers. If you want to overstack the game in MME even, you could do a 3-2 stack very easily in this game. Auburn at Oklahoma, a decent game. Jackson Arnold revenge. Are we excited for Jackson Arnold revenge? Kind of like Darian Mensah revenge last week? I know they're very, very different players, but just want to go. Just the revenge narrative doesn't always work, although it kind of did. It was just in garbage time for Mensah. And again, rambling. Arnold's a fine price at 7,500. Tough environment he's going into. I know he's used to it. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets booed. I don't know. It just seems like a spot where he could. The matchup is probably the reason it's discounting his price after he's been in the mid to high 8Ks this season. I don't know if you can play him here with this team total in this environment when there's just so many good options at quarterback this week. Damari Alston is set to be back. He should take over this room, but Jeremiah Cobb was good. Now he's priced up though because he was good. So it's going to be these two guys because Darrell Robinson's already ruled out. Maybe we'll see a sprinkle of Mabson, but we should expect the Alston and Cobb show. Again, don't know if you can play him. Cam Coleman has upside every week because of his talent. Again, 6,400 is just a tough price to pay when you have all these cheap wide receivers. And Eric Singleton, he's been banged up, but he's listed as probable. He should give it a go. 4,500, I don't mind that. He had 7 targets last week. So the upside is there for him and for Horatio Fields too. Fields and Thompson are listed as or starters. So we'll see. Just Fields has gotten more run this season. On the Oklahoma side, John Mateer, you could price him at 10K and I'd still consider him. And it's pretty self-explanatory. Baylor threw the ball on Auburn just fine. Mateer has upside with his arm. And he has upside with his legs. And then in this running back room, we just have to ask ourselves, did Torrey Blaylock take over that running back one role? If you think he did, 4,200 is too cheap. It was Temple, and Auburn's run defense has been good. But at this price, the upside is still there. If Torrey Blaylock's going to get the workload, we're not going to get too many workhorses for $4,200. Obviously, Joe Barnes and Xavier. I don't know if Xavier Robinson's going to play. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Joe Barnes eats in a little bit. Jaden Ott is just not the same Jaden Ott. So Blaylock's going to get a look from me. Deion Burks, wide receiver 1. Not far behind him is Keontez Lewis. There's been a lot of talk about Jared Kanik, though, and he has been pretty solid. He's been getting a lot of looks lately. Sategna's still out there. Giovanni Gibson was maybe trending towards playing. He looked really good in the spring, but he broke his leg, and it's looking like he's doubtful to play this week. We'll watch to see if he gets upgraded before Saturday, but I don't think we're going to have to worry about him. So it's these top 4 guys. And again, Kanik's price, it's 3,400 for a guy who's going to be on the field a lot and has been getting targets. North Carolina at UCF. If you notice, the same exact total and spread as the game above it. So you could probably venture to guess that both of these games are going to be similar as far as like in the middle, not a super high total, not super low, but it's hard to look at these games with these other games on the slate, but you could get pieces from either of them. Just a little fun fact: Scott Frost was drafted by the Jets when Bill Belichick was the defensive coordinator there. So I don't know if it means anything, just kind of neat. And then the next question you got to ask yourself is Carolina good? Is North Carolina good? After TCU, Gio Lopez got his legs back, but he's been playing bad teams. If you're a believer in hoodie, $6,700 is too cheap. One thing I do like is Damon June, a true freshman who had a big game against Richmond, but Hood and Gauss could still definitely be involved. But I do like June at that price. If he's going to get the workload, it's just something we may not know till we see it. Jordan Chip's been the guy in the wide receiver room, though. Imagine that. Another 4K wide receiver. This wide receiver one. Chris Culliver, Javarius Green, probably the other starters. Green's had a couple of decent games. Culliver's fine. I'd like Jake Johnson more if his brother was playing quarterback. Connor Cox is listed as a starter. The interesting thing is Kobe Pacer. Is he going to bust out at some point? We thought he was wide receiver one coming into the season, but clearly he hasn't been. So maybe it's risky, very risky. That's probably going to be one that I wait and see. UCF, Taven Jackson, we think is probably going to start. Cam Fancher was hurt. He has been practicing this week after missing some time, but Taven Jackson's been winning, and Cam Fancher did not look good in that first game before he went down. So they haven't named a starter yet, but we're thinking it's going to be Jackson, and rightfully so. He's got dual threat ability. Miles Montgomery is another guy who's in for a workhorse type load, but he's in the 8Ks, and just looking at the game scripts for some of these other games, it's tough to click. He might be a pivot off of a guy like Hollywood Smothers, Jeremiah Love, or another one of these priced up running backs in good spots. Jaden Nixon looks good on paper, but that was against NCA&T, so I don't know if you can go there even at 4,500. And these wide receivers, again, cheap, but do we really know who it's going to be? Marcus Burke coming in from Florida looked pretty good, but it's kind of been equal timeshare. All of them have 9 targets, these top 3 guys, and Dylan Wade and true freshman Wade and Charles are definitely going to be involved some too. Maybe pieces from these games, but I don't know. This would probably be a lower owned game stack, but just looking at the team totals, it's hard to click a 47-point team total when we have games in the 60s. It's all about opportunity. We can see who's gotten the touches, but we never really know until the game goes. But when I see more opportunity on paper, opportunity can equal points a lot easier than not opportunity. Short-circuited a little bit there. Michigan at Nebraska, 24-point team total for Michigan is a 2.5-point favorite. Bryce Underwood, 74. He looked real good last week, didn't he, against those chips? But now he's facing the number 1 pass defense in the country. So tough click at 7,400. If he can get his legs going again, he can be dangerous, but Nebraska is just a different animal. Tough road environment for a freshman quarterback. Justice Haynes, though, seems to be that dog. He's been sharing the backfield with Jordan Marshall, but again, like last week, both of them got there, and Haynes should control this backfield. Marshall will probably still mix in, but Haynes seems like the alpha in this backfield. So I don't mind him, especially since, Nebraska's pass defense is good, but since he was able to rush for 7 yards a carry on him. Wide receiver room. Everything with this wide receiver room is dependent on Underwood. It's a tough matchup. Maybe Marlon Klein. Like Marlon Klein and Donovan McCulley are built to compete with any defender. Klein is the freak. I watched that game last week, and it seemed like a couple of times Underwood was really trying to get him involved, whether he was open or not. So if you're looking at anybody, you're probably looking at Klein, but really Justice Haynes is the guy I'm looking at on the Michigan side. On the Nebraska side, Dylan Raiola has been doing exactly what he needs to do, playing above average against good teams or decent teams and just demolishing bad teams. 6,100. If you are going to go cheap quarterback, he might be it. But again, 21.5-point implied team total just doesn't look pretty. Emmett Johnson, though, averaging 17 carries and 5 targets a game. You're playing him for his volume, even in this matchup at this price. So he's tied for third on the team in receptions. He had 10 targets against Cincinnati, which is the most competitive game they've had. If this game's competitive again, we could see a repeat. Mekhi Nelson might mix in. He didn't play last week, but we think it was disciplinary, not injury related. But Emmett Johnson is a guy that you're going to want to take a close look at. And then Barney, Key, Hunter, any one of them could be the guy. I would not be surprised to see one of them score 3 touchdowns. Would not be surprised to see 3 of them score 1 touchdown. Don't sleep on Luke Lindenmeyer, though. He's been involved at the tight end position, and it's just a hard click with Hunter being $200 more. Again, you're not really looking too closely at this game based on, the slate as a whole. Blowout on paper. Tough road matchup for Ryan Brown and the Purdue Boilermakers. He's got dual threat, but Notre Dame's defense, they haven't looked stellar, but think about who they played. Not Purdue. They haven't played Purdue. So I think this is going to be like a get-right spot for Notre Dame. Devin Mockabee at 5K. You're playing him for his volume. What can he do against his defense? It doesn't really matter. He's still going to be involved. And again, more cheap wide receivers. Horton and Jackson are getting more than 5 targets a game. Branch and Tuggle are both involved enough. Again, weigh risk versus reward in this matchup. Again, if you get it all to funnel to the wide receiver you play, that's good. But just tough click. A lot of 3 and 4K wide receivers. On the Notre Dame side, CJ Carr is expensive. He's put up decent numbers. I don't know if it's $8,800 worth of numbers, but again, shaping up to be a get-right spot in a plus EV matchup. Don't mind Carr at all. Jeremiah Love at 9K, fair. I think it's fair. He had 23 carries last game, and he's gotten 12 targets through 2 games. If you're that involved, you deserve to be 9K, especially with his talent. Jadarian Price is involved enough. He probably warrants the price tag he has too. The wide receiver room, it's tough because Malachi Fields had 11 targets last game. Brereton had 9 targets the week before. Faison has been a little bit more consistent with 6 and 5 targets. And we saw Fields do it at Virginia. Virginia's a bad team. And now if he can do it on a good team, but Notre Dame has split the ball a lot amongst its wide receivers historically. Honestly, Will Pauling's a dark horse. I wouldn't be surprised if he's the guy this week at 3,500. He had a slight uptick in routes, but you're really looking at Carr, Love, and Price, maybe mixing in a wide receiver if you want to do a full Notre Dame stack. I don't even think you need to do a run back with this type of game environment. And Notre Dame needs a win, and they need a significant win, a statement win. So even if they're up 45, I wouldn't be surprised to see some of these starters still on the field. And then a phenomenal late day hammer. North Carolina State at Duke, tight game, high total. CJ Bailey's probably priced about right. He has dual threat ability. Maybe he should be a little bit more expensive after what Retzlaff did last week. But he's talented through the air and on the ground. Love Bailey. Just a matter of if you want to play him with all these other great quarterback plays on the slate. Maybe the workiest of all the workhorses is Hollywood Smothers. 21 carries and 4 targets a game. 8,600 is probably still too cheap. But honestly, 8,600 is super easy to afford on this slate. Love Smothers in all formats. Wide receiver room, another one that's tough to figure out. Justin Jolie's been the steady tight end. Had a couple of scores last week. Without those touchdowns, it was a stinker. Terrell Anderson's getting plenty of looks. Wesley Grimes is getting plenty of looks. He's on the injury report, another guy who's probable. Even Noah Rogers had his best game of the season last week, as well as Keenan Jackson, GPP winner for some people last week. So it could be any one of these guys any given week. They're cheap enough that you can take a shot on them, especially if you're game stacking. And you can play Bailey and Smothers and just avoid the wide receivers. There is definitely a route for that to get there. On the Duke side, Darian Mensah, also very easy to stack with his wide receivers. And a lot of his production last week was in garbage time, but with a 30-point team total. We'll see if Duke can actually put it together. They're at home, which helps. But even garbage time is fine for DFS, whether Duke is winning, losing, competitive game, not competitive game. If Mensah can get it done in garbage time, that's fine. Running back room, a little bit tougher. But again, they've been playing from behind. All 4 of these guys are involved in both the running and passing game. Again, you'd be doing a dart throw. Min price Nate Shepard is fine. Speaking of family lineage from earlier, full circle, Will Shepherd's younger brother. I think I've mentioned that because I feel like we've had Duke on almost every slate so far this year. But then in the wide receiver room, Cooper Barkade is wide receiver 1 with more than 8 targets a game. Why he's 4,600, I have no idea. Sean Brown in a solid spot as well, getting 7 targets per game, but he's actually probably priced closer. Like he's probably priced about right based on the target share of this offense. And then Anthony and Higgins both involved. Both of them have 2 touchdowns, or they both have 3 touchdowns. I need to read my notes better. Both of these guys have 3 touchdowns. We know Higgins for the history with Duke. Angelo Anthony's in from Oklahoma. Both of them very talented wide receivers. Both of them probably have the talent to be 6K wide receivers, but Barkade has stolen the show since he's transferred in from Harvard. And Darian Mensa doesn't know Angelo Anthony or Samir Higgins. So, I mean, he does now, obviously, but he hadn't played with them before. So seeing Barkade getting the workload early is a good sign for him moving forward in 4,600. Again, start your lineup, be at the bottom of these tournaments all day on DraftKings, and then watch your lineups climb because you have 4 players from this late hammer. Anyway, a lot of good games, a lot of ways that these points could get spread out, a lot of potential pivots. Definitely a week to pay attention to ownership. Again, if it funnels to a couple of different spots, there will be plenty of pivots. If this is the stone, by the way. I don't know if I said that. This is what we have up on our website right now for our members. It's a blank stone just to get people started. But soon we will be transitioning to a much more colorful stone. This is last week's. So if you look, or maybe 2 weeks ago. Oh, no, Bama. Yep. Bama crushed. Yeah. And we had, so you can see Jeremy Bernard was high upside. He got there. Ryan Williams, since he had the injury tag, we weren't sure. Kevin Riley, like it shows you the cash play, high upside plays. It labels what type of game we think it's going to be. Oh, and this week we're unveiling pace, pass defense, and rush defensive grades. So just all the information you need to know in one spot so you don't have to click through 17 different tabs. And it lets you know where the plays are and what we feel. So like I said, I'm going to mention again the 3 for 3 there, ShipItNation.com. Get the big all access package. It's $3 no matter which package you pick. If you pick the ultimate or the starter, whatever, any of those monthly packages for all access. And try us out for 3 days. At least get a feel. Start it on Friday so you get Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Lots of football those 3 days. But that's it for today's slate. I do want to end again with the big guys. Rule number 1, college football is fun. Enjoy the process of building your lineups. Enjoy the sweat. Be thankful that we have the opportunity to not only watch college football and enjoy it, but enjoy playing daily fantasy sports and watching our lineups hopefully climb those leaderboards. For now, it's going to do it for this show. I'll see you in the streets, and let's all ship one for the big guy.